In this video, I'm going to be going over Seed of the Triumvirate guide that I would recommend to new players, to players who are getting into Mythic Plus for the first time. And this is a route that I'm probably going to utilize early on in my season until my group starts coming up with more intuitive strategies for the composition that we plan on running. So take this with a grain of salt. There's a ton of routes out there. There's a lot of options. This is a fairly open-ended dungeon for the most part. There's a couple of things you have to take care of and do. But you're going to see probably a lot of cool strategies come out of this dungeon in the long run over the course of the season. Anyways, let's just get into it though. So starting off, you have Lust and you have cooldowns. So I always recommend getting a big pull. And also the first boss isn't hard enough to warrant Lust 4. And so what I recommend doing is tagging the Subjugator on the right-hand side, the Subjugator on the left-hand side, and also grabbing this very, very first pack. Now, do be careful. This first pack is almost right up against the kind of barrier that drops at the start of the key. And so you're going to want to make sure you're getting threat on all of these, and DPS hands off for like 2 seconds. If your tank can get everything gathered, you're going to have way more fun doing damage on this pull than trying to blow your load early and dying immediately as Lust gets popped. So a couple of things to watch out for in this dungeon. These champions are super dangerous. They do a little dash at the tank whenever they get further than 10 yards away. And so when you pull these champions, you want to make sure you're staying in melee range, especially if you're trying to kite. You want to like keep a healthy distance, or actually, no, I don't even know if that's the right phrasing. You want to make sure you're staying close, because that bleed, as it stacks, can become nearly lethal at all key levels. And so when you pull these champions, once they're engaged, try to plant and stand still. Subjugators, on the other hand, will do this unique thing where they cast like chains of subjugation at your entire party. This is a massive damage over time event that's also a slow. And so healers are going to want to prepare. Lust is going to help, but if you have a way to remove slows like Tiger's Lust, Freedom, Fade, I believe putting up Barrier as a mage if you're talented in the right thing also removes it, shape shifting. So if you have a way to remove a snare effect, use it. It's basically an immunity, or well, it'll remove the rest of the damage that's going to be occurring. So yeah, keep an eye out for that, but Lust should carry. After this first pull, I do like to grab this left pack of champions with a bunch of these little famished broken. These guys don't do anything outside. Once they die, they like erupt. But outside of that, they don't really have like any actual active affix while you're engaged with them. I'm going to drag this pack over to this pack as well with the other subjugator. Again, when you're moving with these champions, be super careful. If they charge you, you're going to feel it. It's a very painful dot. And then finally, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to grab some champions with this merciless subjugator and finish it up. The last thing I wanted to mention is these conjurers. Just kick them. Right now, the journal isn't updated, but they just cast bolts. Just keep them locked down. It's not too hard. And then finally, you're going to engage with the boss. Now, the one thing I will say is I like to pull trash onto this boss because it's basically free. There is a patrol. Actually, there's 2 patrols of Famished Broken. You can pull whichever one you'd like, but getting this onto the boss is fine to do. If you need like funnel, if you want your numbers to look big, whatever you'd like to do. All right, so first boss goes down. I have boss guide videos out. So if you'd like to see how the bosses work in a kind of a quick format, I will leave it'll be on screen, but I'll also leave the playlist in the description down below. So walking outside, your next objective in this dungeon is to kill all 4 of the Rift Wardens. There's 4 of them. You have to do them. There's no way around it. So this route is going to attempt them in a somewhat of a linear fashion. So I like to start with the mob on the left because I think it's the most kind of out of the way. Actually, they're all out of the way, if I'm being honest. But when you jump down, you'll have 2 Rift Stalkers. You'll have the Rift Warden. And then I also like to pull this pack of, it's 2 Umbral Fins and 2 champions. Again, once champions are in melee range, they're not doing anything to the tank. They're just meleeing. Just want to stay in melee range. Umbral Fins don't do much either. I find them to be kind of like fodder mobs. They're very easy to kind of just pull into like any pack. And then you have the Rift Stalkers. Now, the Rift Stalkers can be annoying because they'll randomly port away and start healing. So you're going to want to keep an eye on these. Now, the way to prevent them is either by interrupting them or just simply by CCing. So things like Ring of Peace, Leg Sweep, Shockwave, Storm Bolt, whatever CC you need to utilize to stop the Rift Walkers from healing. But outside of that, it's also pretty chill. Now, the one thing I will mention about the Rift Wardens is tanks, you need to keep them near the portal that they are channeling into. If you pull them too far away, it'll start like detonating damage, which will end up probably in a wipe. I haven't seen it in a long time just because once you learn, you know. So just tank them near their portal. You can move like within like 15 yards of it. I don't know the exact range, but definitely keep an eye on that. Once that pack goes down, and that was definitely a more dangerous pack, we're simply going to grab these 2 Umbral Fins and pull them onto the Rift Warden here. So this is a pretty tame pull. Next, we're going to go into this pack plus Patrol. Again, these are all mobs that we've seen before. We have 2 champions, we have a Conjurer that we need to kick, and we have a Subjugator who's going to do kind of group damage with those chains. Again, just use snare removals, and we have some Umbral Fins, which I believe are just fodder. And then finally, we're going to be going into this single Rift Warden. This guy's hard to pull with anything else. Everything else that's around here is extremely dangerous. The only thing that I've done over the course of beta is I actually grabbed this pack of Famished Broken on the far right. They come in a little bit later. They help with funnel, but people should just be mostly doing single target damage here. All right, so once we do that, we're going to be heading back towards the second boss's arena, and I'm going to be grabbing this pack here. It's a Conjurer, 2 champions, and then I'm also going to be grabbing this Famished Broken. Now, the priority in this pack, there's nothing super dangerous, but if you kill the Conjurer, you can then start walking with the rest of the mobs because they are all basically melee mobs, and they don't really do much outside of the champions. You just want to stay in melee range. So then what I do is you can just walk up the edge here, and you want to then start heading over to this Rift Warden right here. So we're going to grab this guy, and then generally what I do with him is I will grab him with this Patrol. Now, like I said before, like with this last Rift Warden, is a lot of the mobs around here are really dangerous. So you can just do the Rift Warden by itself. You can pull the Famished Broken on if you want, but this Patrol will eventually get in your way. So I do suggest kind of pulling it with the Rift Warden, but everyone should be focusing the Rift Warden. Now, this pack is difficult because it has a Conjurer in it, which is casting, and then you also have a Riftstalker, which is going to randomly teleport away. So this is a hard pack to do. If you can avoid doing it, I recommend it, but if you're in a comfortable group or you have kicks locked down or you're watching the Conjurer yourself or you're a prop paladin, this pack actually is pretty okay. Just make sure you're using some pretty heavy defensives. And then finally, the Rift Warden, when it goes down, you're going to want to chain into like this pack, which I will then also maybe pull with these Famished Broken if needed. If not, I pull these Famished Broken onto the actual boss. And so that should set us up. The only thing we need to be careful of is if this Rift Warden dies, the boss spawns. And the boss spawns kind of where this Patrol is on the map. So if you're too close, the boss will pull immediately. And depending on where you're at in the stage of the pull, it could result in a wipe. So definitely be careful once the Rift Warden dies. Hence why I like to do this pull over here, because it kind of forces everyone to move away because they're obviously trying to hit the mobs, and then no one pulls the boss. All right, so next we'll do Saprish, and then finally we'll move on here once this boss goes down. So the next thing I like to do is I like to pull this right side Destroyer into this pack here with one Riftstalker and 2 Voidbenders. And then there's also going to be this Destroyer that's patrolling down the hill. So you'll grab both of these guys. These guys are fairly dangerous, but they shouldn't be too overwhelming once your group is situated. The biggest thing here is these Voidbenders. These Voidbenders do this really nasty cast. I don't remember what it's called. It's some kind of like abyssal enhancement. And if that goes off, it'll cause their auto attacks to basically chain lightning and deal a bunch of damage to your group. And so if that goes off, the tank needs to kite, or your group is probably going to die because of the other damage. We've already seen what Riftstalkers can do. They just teleport away. Just kick them when they do that, or stun them. Ideally, you allocate your kicks to the Voidbenders. And then again, these Void Destroyers will do some like heavy damage to like targeted players, and they'll do a sizable frontal that you're just going to want to avoid. So after that, I like to pull then the next 2 Destroyers, and I go into the boss room, and I'll try to grab the 2 Voidbenders to get like a decent 4-target cleave pack. Once again, this pull can be dangerous if you miss a kick, or if people are getting just bombarded by the Destroyers kind of mechanics. And now, in order to spawn Nizar, you actually have to kill these 2 Void Weavers. But some groups will go here first to get the boss spawned early. But what I don't like about that is it's very easy for people to accidentally pull the boss. And if this boss gets pulled, it's not going to be a fun time. So I think when you're doing this for the first time, I recommend going to the left, just doing this pack. And then you're going to do this pack. And then you're going to finally end it with these Void Weavers. So all of these mobs we've seen before, basically. The only thing we haven't are these Void Weavers, which essentially just replicate what the boss's mechanics are going to be. They do a random ray at a player that does some damage, and they're also going to spawn some Rift Gates or Abyssal Gates, whatever they're called. That'll spawn orbs that you're just going to want to dodge. You can tell how to dodge them based on the arrows that are going out. And if you notice, that puts us at not exactly, 100.18%, which is pretty good. There's nothing really you can drop unless you can somehow get 1 Famished Broken not pulled. But honestly, because of how foddery these mobs end up being, it's totally okay if you're over by 0.1%. So this is the route that I was using all of beta, and it was very good. We ended up two chessing a lot of the higher versions of this key up like 17s and 18s and such. And so I like this route a lot. There's a couple of hard pulls, but I think players are going to have a lot of I think players are going to have a lot of fun in here. Anyways, I hope this makes sense. I hope it's straightforward. I think this feels pretty whole W. There's just a couple of things to kind of keep in mind, like what to pull, what not to pull. At the end of the day, when you're learning a key like this, if you're short percent by the end of the key, it's all good. And if anyone gives you a hard time, tell them to fucking learn how to tank. Anyways, I hope this guide was helpful. Links for boss guides and routes will be down below and in my Discord, so check that out. Anyways, good luck and have fun. Peace.